Some of the best new construction selection in all of San Antonio, amenity centers with pools, parks, schools, all right in your neighborhood, and everything you need for everyday life within a short drive. Plus, these are the price points that give you the most house for your budget. We're talking about the far west side of San Antonio, and if it's not yet on your list of where to live when moving to San Antonio, it's probably worth looking into. The far west side of San Antonio doesn't get the same search volume as other areas just because it doesn't have the same name recognition with out-of-state buyers yet. But the families that I help to relocate to the San Antonio area who end up out here tend to love it and be super happy with their decision. Now, I'm not saying that this area is the best choice for everyone, because it's not. It has its goods and its bads, and we're going to talk about all of those today. I actually live out here on the far west side of San Antonio, so everything I'm going to show you today is exactly what I see on a daily basis. I'm going to take you through the entire far west area and through some of the specific neighborhoods so you can see what this area actually looks like. And by the end of the video, you'll have a really good picture of whether the far west side belongs on your list or not. If we look at the far west side of San Antonio on a map, it's this corridor that runs west of Loop 1604 along Highway 151, Culebra Road, Potranco Road, and Highway 211, and I would even consider as far south as Highway 90 in this area, which leads you out of San Antonio into Castroville as you push further out. These are the main roads that connect everything out here, and they feed into 1604, which then connects you to every major highway in the city. You've got Lackland Air Force Base on the southeast edge of this area, so this tends to attract a lot of military families. Far west side isn't technically what you would consider hill country, but it's close enough that you feel the difference in the terrain and the way the land opens up as you get further away from the city limits. And that's actually one of the big things that surprises people when they come out here for the first time. They're expecting all of San Antonio to be either big city with nothing to look at or flat terrain and farmland, and what they find out this way is more of a rolling landscape, green spaces, and just overall more space that you don't get in the more developed inner areas of the city. Okay, here's what you need to know about the far west side. It has been one of the fastest growing corridors in the entire San Antonio metro for the past 10 to 15 years. And the growth has just not slowed down. It just keeps expanding and moving outwards. The builder activity out here is some of the most active in the entire city. Multiple national and regional builders have been active in this area for years, and there are constantly new phases opening, completely new communities being developed, inventory that gives buyers tons of options in terms of price points, floor plans, and community amenities. And this is usually a very pleasant surprise for families coming from areas where new construction is either unavailable or completely out of their price range. And for those that are looking specifically for new construction, the far west side definitely offers the most options at the best price points. So even though new construction is a huge appeal for some families, it's important to know that there are plenty of options in neighborhoods that have been here since long before the development craziness. There are plenty of established neighborhoods out here that have been here long enough to have mature landscaping, more settled communities, and the kind of neighborhood feel that does not exist in those newer neighborhoods. So whether you want something brand new or something with a little bit more character behind it, this area has plenty of options for both. The growth story in this area matters for more than just having newer homes and more modern amenities. Buying into such a massive area that is still actively developing means buying in before everything is fully built out and before prices are fully appreciated. The families who chose this area 5 or 6 years ago got in at a very different price point than what you see today. And the growth trajectory of the far west side suggests that the same pattern is going to continue over the next several years. Now let's talk more specifics about how much homes actually cost on the far west side, since pricing is definitely one of the biggest factors in choosing where to live in San Antonio. We're going to specifically talk about the $350,000 to $650,000 price range and what that looks like here, because this is definitely the sweet spot for a lot of these communities. This price range on the far west side typically buys you more square footage and sometimes even a larger lot size, depending on the specific community, of course. worse. You get newer construction homes with open layouts and modern finishes here versus what the same budget gets you in Stone Oak, Chavano Park, Bernie. That's not because the Far West Side is a lower option. It's more because this area has more recently developed land, more builder competition, and more inventory. Supply and demand works in the buyer's favor out here in a way it doesn't in some of the more resale heavy markets in the city. And what that means for the typical home buyer is that families can usually find 4 bedrooms, 2 to 3 car garages, spacious square footage homes with larger backyards and community pools and parks and neighborhoods. That would be significantly more expensive and harder to find in the more established northern or northwest corridors of San Antonio. For a family coming from California, Colorado, the Pacific Northwest, or even the East Coast who is used to getting very little home for a larger amount of money, this part of San Antonio has a tendency to draw in buyers from all over and has become one of the top destinations for relocating families. I want to explain something about the overall layout of the Far West Side that most people that are researching don't realize, and something that a Google search can't describe to you. There are really 3 main corridors that we talk about when we refer to the Far West Side. That's Culebra Road, Potranco Road, and Highway 90. Each have their own character and tend to attract slightly different buyers, and knowing which corridor fits your family before you start looking at specific neighborhoods can save you a lot of time. The Culebra Road area tends to attract buyers who want to be on the north end of the Far West corridor, closer to Helotes, and have more of that hill country feel. So if you already have Helotes on your list, but you're not seeing a lot of inventory, the Culebra area could work for you because there are several roads that branch into the Helotes area from Culebra Road. Potranco Road is where you'll find some of the strongest new construction selection in the entire city. Buyers here are typically looking for newer homes and good community amenities, and they found that this area gives them more home and more options for their money than similar price points in other parts of this area. All of the areas adjacent to Highway 90 have some of the most accessible price points in the entire Far West area, with a good mix of entry-level and mid-level new construction options. If new construction is important to you and you're working within a tighter budget, this corridor could be a really good fit for you. So even though on a map they are all connected and they're all grouped together in the Far West area, they do have different things going on, different pros and cons, and knowing which of these 3 corridors fits your priorities best is actually a great starting point before you ever even look at a specific neighborhood. So let's take a look at a few examples of neighborhoods across these 3 corridors. I definitely can't show you every community. There are way too many for one video or even 10 videos, and honestly that's a good problem to have out here because it means you have tons of options. But I will show you enough to give you a real feel for what's available and help you start narrowing down which direction to look. For those buyers who want a brand new home and all of the builder incentives that go along with that, there are active phases and model homes throughout this entire corridor right now with the most current floor plans and finishes available. In the $380,000 to $550,000 price range, you're typically looking at 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, open layouts, with modern finishes and community amenities built into the neighborhood. I do want to make a quick note to say that the market moves frequently, and I don't want to give you a price that's already out of date by the time you watch this video, so just know that this is an evolving price range. For buyers who want newer construction without the active build noise or wait times, these communities are mostly complete, have established landscaping starting to fill in, and tend to have more resale inventory available than the actively building communities. You get the newer construction feel without the feel of living in a construction zone, and often more lot size for the price compared to brand new homes in the same area. For those buyers who want mature neighborhoods with more character, developed landscaping, these areas have been here for long enough to have mature trees, established community identities, and a mix of home styles and sizes. If you want a move-in ready home in a neighborhood that already feels like a neighborhood and not a work in progress, these are some of the pockets of the Far West Side worth looking at. If the square footage of land matters just as much to you as the square footage of the home, these are the pockets on the Far West Side where you'll find noticeably more space between houses and larger individual lots. Further out along the 211 corridor and some of the roads branching off Potranco and Grosenbacher, you start finding properties with more land than a typical suburban lot. This is often where buyers end up who came out here originally looking at the hill country but realized they could get the space they wanted at a significantly lower price without the full hill country commute. One of the most common questions I get from families that are considering the Far West Side is whether there's actually anything out here, because if you look at it on a map, it seems like it's pretty far away from the inner city. city. But to be perfectly honest, this area has developed tremendously in so many pockets, and the development continues every single day. The progress that has happened in just the last 10 years has completely changed the landscape and has made it pretty convenient for residents to have whatever they need in everyday life within close driving distance. We're talking Costco, multiple HEBs, Targets, plus tons of other retail chains, dining, entertainment, local small businesses, you name it, it's all out here. Multiple HEBs anchor many of these areas along this corridor, and that means that your grocery situation is pretty much covered. The restaurant and retail options have expanded considerably over the last several years, and those are still growing and expanding everywhere you look. From the far west side, you can reach the South Texas Medical Center, downtown, the airport, JBSA Lackland, and the north side without having to navigate through downtown San Antonio. Even with traffic, that's a big advantage for families whose commutes take them to multiple different parts of the city. The schools that are serving this corridor include Northside ISD for most areas, Southwest ISD for some areas, and Medina County ISD, depending on the specific area that you choose. Verifying school district by specific address is always important to research before deciding on an area because zip code alone isn't always accurate. Some subdivisions in the area have school zone boundaries running right through the middle of the neighborhood, so one street might be zoned for Northside ISD, while 2 blocks down is zoned for Medina County. So if school districts are important to you, we will always verify that before getting serious about a specific home. Okay, now the second most common question that I get from clients that are thinking about living on the far west side is, but what about the traffic? I want to be very transparent here. If you've spent any time on San Antonio social media, YouTube or TikTok or anything else, you've probably seen plenty of complaints about traffic and construction. And I'm not going to tell you those people are wrong. There is a lot of construction out here, from the major highways like 90 and Loop 1604 to the major corridors like Culebra Road and Potranco Road, even to the connecting roads like Talley, Wiseman, and Grosenbacher. There's construction everywhere because they're expanding, extending, adding flyovers, and overall just making these roads and highways better and more accessible. The construction plus heavily congested areas obviously equals heavier traffic. But here's the context that actually gets left out of those posts that you see on social media. Construction and traffic are a symptom of demand. Nobody builds infrastructure in an area where nobody wants to live. The roads are being widened, the interchanges are being improved, and the development is continuing because tens of thousands of families have chosen these areas, and more are choosing to move out here every year. It's really no longer the hidden gem area of the city because not only is it a destination for families that are relocating to San Antonio, it also attracts local families that are wanting to move out of the inner part of San Antonio areas and take advantage of all that this area of the city has to offer. So of course, you'll see the comments from those that moved away from the far west side and never looked back, or moved here and absolutely regret it. But the overwhelming majority will tell you that the other advantages of living here just outweigh the current traffic situation. To summarize the traffic for you from someone who drives it daily, if your daily commute runs east during morning rush hour on 151 or 1604 or Highway 90, you need to factor that in and be honest with yourself about whether it can fit into your daily life. If your commute is more flexible, or you're heading west or south, or you're remote, this is a much smaller consideration in your day-to-day life than the social media posts are showing you. It's definitely not for everyone, and we all have different needs and priorities that have to be factored in. So while we're on that topic, let's talk about who typically considers the far west side of San Antonio a great option. If you're a family whose most important criteria revolves around square footage, newer construction, community amenities, and getting the most out of your budget in the $350,000 to $650,000 price range, this area usually delivers on that better than most other parts of the city at those price points. Plus, it has the most amount of options for you. If you're working remote or have a flexible commute, or if you're working near Lackland, the medical center, or the southwest part of the city, the highway access could work well for your situation. If you're coming from California, Colorado, or the Pacific Northwest and you want a neighborhood that feels spacious and new with room to breathe, the far west side tends to be the part of San Antonio that gives you the views, the walking trails, the more natural out of the city type experience. Where it's probably not the right fit is if you need to be in the northeast or far north part of the city daily. That commute adds up, and there are parts of the city that could serve your situation better. And if what you're really looking for is hill country lifestyle itself, the small town vibes, the more rural feel, larger acreage lots, there are probably areas that would be better fits for you. Far west side of San Antonio is hill country adjacent and has green spaces, but it's still suburban San Antonio. And if you're looking for that hill country life, that's a totally different conversation. This is where the suburb quiz that I built will help you sort out which direction makes the most sense for you in your specific situation. The link is in the description. It takes about 3 minutes and can save you tons of time in narrowing down your options of where to live in San Antonio. The full written guide on the far west side is linked in this description also, and that page goes deeper on everything we covered today and links to the specific corridors of the far west side, plus individual communities and neighborhood pages that I've built on the site. So take the suburb quiz if you're still weighing this corridor against other parts of the city. The relocation guide covers the full moving process, and when you're ready to have a real conversation about your specific situation, the link to my schedule is also in the description for a free relocation call to plan your move to San Antonio. The far west side doesn't always make the short list when families first start researching San Antonio because most people that are moving from out of state have never even heard of it. But there are so many reasons why families end up choosing to live here. I hope that this video gave you tons of insight and also some reasons to take a closer look at it. All of the links are in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.